Any kid who grew up in the 1980s probably remembers the popular sitcom Punky Brewster. From its Challenger episode to the fact that the show's namesake was an actual person, here's everything you don't know about the happy-go-lucky series. Soleil Moon Frye had appeared in a couple of made-for-TV movies and a handful of television episodes when she landed the role of plucky Punky Brewster. Despite being a relative newcomer to show business when the series debuted in 1984, 8-year-old Frye did boast some meaningful connections to Punky Brewster's creator. Her older half-brother, Mino Pellucci, was a successful child actor, appearing on the TV version of The Bad News Bears, Voyagers, and as abused child Toby on a very special episode of Silver Spoons. As it turned out, Silver Spoons was developed by David W. Duclain, who was also the creator of Punky Brewster. Despite this helpful link to the show's source, Frye still had to endure a very competitive audition process. Producers put out a casting call far and wide and only decided that Frye was the right actor for the part after considering around 3,000 other candidates. Among those Frye defeated was Melissa Joan Hart, who'd later star as the similarly quirky Sabrina on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Funnily enough, Frye ended up on that show as well, playing Sabrina's friend Roxy King. The deep and deliberately voiced George Gaines had been a hard-working character actor since the early 1960s. He'd landed small parts on dozens of episodes of TV shows, including Hogan's Heroes, Columbo, and Hawaii Five-0. However, Gaines didn't really explode into the public consciousness until 1984, thanks to back-to-back breakout roles as Commandant Eric Lassard in Police Academy and as Punky's reluctant adoptive parent Henry on Punky Brewster. However, Gaines wasn't immediately in contention to land that sitcom dad role. Seasoned television actor Fred Gwynne was gunning for the part as well, which would have marked his third successful sitcom following Car 54, Where Are You? And The Munsters, in which he starred as the goofy Herman Munster.
I'm every inch a gentleman. In fact, several gentlemen.
Gwynne was eager to be associated with a role besides that of a monster from a 20-year-old novelty sitcom. He attended his Punky Brewster audition dressed in a white suit with a fresh haircut, hoping to look as little like Herman Munster as possible. But then Soleil Moon Frye arrived to read lines with Gwynne and innocently asked, "Aren't you Herman Munster?" Gwynne was so disappointed he botched his audition.
Did you say utes?
Yeah, 2 utes.
What is a ute?
Punky Brewster ranks as one of the most memorable names in TV history. It fits the character tremendously with her free-thinking wardrobe choices and attitude, to the point that one would think the name was made up by the show's writers. But in fact, the name was taken from an actual person. NBC Entertainment president Brandon Tartikoff commissioned the show Punky Brewster, suggesting the concept to creator David W. Duclain with the caveat that the main character be named Punky Brewster. As a child, Tartikoff attended Lawrenceville School, an exclusive boys-only academy, where he met the daughter of a teacher whose name was, adorably, Punky Brewster. Punky was actually a nickname. The young woman's real first name was Peyton. When Punky Brewster was in production in 1984, Tartikoff had NBC's lawyers find the real Punky, now married and going by Peyton Rutledge, to get her approval and pay her for the right to use her name. She gave it and also agreed to film a cameo.
What's your name?
Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster. Strange name.
In the mid-1980s, NBC was enjoying a long-running and very lucrative deal that allowed them to run NFL games on Sunday afternoons. Sometimes those football games ran long, exceeding the allocated time slot and thus intruding upon the network's pre-scheduled primetime television block. NBC wasn't going to cut away from a hotly contested football game in favor of whatever sitcom or scripted drama was supposed to start at 7 p.m., so whatever show had that slot was bound to experience some interference during the fall and winter months. NBC anticipated this fate befalling Punky Brewster, set to debut in September 1984. To help ensure that Punky Brewster would find a foothold with young viewers and not be gobbled up by football, NBC announced a unique format tweak for the show before it even debuted. Of the initial 13 episodes of Punky Brewster ordered, 3 would be collapsible, meaning they could be broken down into 2 standalone 15-minute episodes. That way, if football ran long, NBC could still air an episode of Punky Brewster that millions of kids had made an appointment to watch, and also ensure its 8 p.m. hit, Knight Rider, could start on time. 15-minute shows hadn't been part of the nighttime TV landscape since the 1960s, when the networks produced 15-minute primetime newscasts, but Punky Brewster brought the format back. Punky Brewster's biggest supporter and constant partner in mischief is her close friend Cherie Johnson, who lives in the same building as Punky's foster father, Henry. The character of Cherie Johnson was played by a young actor also named Cherie Johnson, and that wasn't a coincidence. Punky Brewster's creator, David W. Duclawn, just happened to be Johnson's uncle. Johnson told Mental Floss, "He created the show, but not for me to have a job. He just thought he'd use my name and that I'd be thrilled." Duclawn was only vaguely aware that his niece had acting aspirations, of which she wasn't quite convinced herself. On the set of Duclawn's other 80s show, Silver Spoons, Johnson told Parlay that she watched Ricky Schroeder perform and told Duclawn that she could do the same. When Punky Brewster entered production and Johnson learned that Duclawn had named a character after her, Johnson pushed to play the role. As Johnson later recalled, Duclawn wanted a, quote, real actress. After Johnson auditioned 7 times, however, NBC told Duclawn to cast her.
Oh, Cherie, I must have a green thumb. I sure have grown a pretty little flower.
Thanks, Grandma.
On January 28, 1986, NASA launched the Space Shuttle Challenger. This was almost a routine occurrence, as this would be the 10th time Challenger had gone into space in 3 years. But this time was indeed different. High school teacher Kristen McAuliffe was one of 7 Challenger crew members set to become the first American civilian to visit space. Because of the historical importance and educational connection, countless classrooms around the country tuned in to watch the Challenger launch live. Tragically, a little over a minute after liftoff, the space shuttle exploded, killing all 7 crew members. It's impossible to say how many kids watching the moment on TV were traumatized, but the fact that it became a shocking generational milestone is beyond question. One of those kids left sad and troubled by the event was a fictional one, TV's Punky Brewster. The character repeatedly affirms her desire to be an astronaut when she grows up, so David W. Duclawn wrote an episode in which the character processes the Challenger disaster. According to the Los Angeles Times, Duclawn also wanted to help kid viewers manage their feelings and to not give up on their dreams of being astronauts someday. That encouragement is explicitly delivered to Punky in the episode by special guest star Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon. Punky Brewster received numerous letters from young viewers who would write suggestions on what they wanted to see Punky do, as show producer Rick Hawkins told Mental Floss. This inspired David W. Duclawn to have an official contest in which he asked kids to send in their Punky Brewster ideas in the hopes of having it become an actual episode. A 7-year-old Punky Brewster fan named Jeremy Reams sent in the winning entry, which suggested Punky should show kids how to use CPR to save a life. Show writers ran with that, concocting the 1986 episode Cherie Lifesaver, wherein Punky's best friend Cherie gets trapped in a junked fridge while playing. Hawkins told the outlet, "That idea came out of research we had done where we learned an alarming number of kids had suffocated in an old fridge or freezer. By the 80s, fridges had to be openable from the inside, but as Hawkins told Mental Floss, in low economic neighborhoods, the old fridges were being tossed out in vacant lots. Cherie nearly dies in that fridge, only for Punky to save her with CPR." Punky Brewster was popular enough that NBC sought to expand their spunky fashion-forward star's TV empire. In the fall of 1985, a year after Punky Brewster debuted, NBC's Saturday morning lineup welcomed a new cartoon, also called Punky Brewster, although it was sometimes referred to as It's Punky Brewster to differentiate it from its live-action counterpart. While the sitcom is about an orphan living with a sometimes stodgy old man, the animated series is a bizarre, fantastical adventure, with the characters of Punky Brewster added in. The animated show also featured a cute, magical gopher-like creature named Glomer, who comes from a city at the end of the rainbow and gets lost in the real world, only to meet Punky and her friends. This Punky Brewster lasted for 2 strange, whimsical seasons. Not as successful a spin-off was Fenster Hall. NBC aired the pilot as an episode of Punky Brewster in March 1985 without ordering a full series. Such a series would have explored the day-to-day happenings of a children's shelter, which briefly served as a temporary home to Punky herself in early episodes of Punky Brewster. Believe it or not, this spin-off series would have been a comedy. Despite its impact with young viewers, Punky Brewster was not a breakout ratings hit. In the 1984-85 season, it ranked 69th out of 77 shows in terms of viewership and fell to 76th in Season 2. This was bad news for Punky Brewster fans, and NBC canceled it in 1986. There was good news, however. The network sold it to a television syndicate. Several hundred non-network affiliated TV stations in the U.S. needed programming, and many relied on modestly budgeted scripted productions sold to them by distributors. Joining the ranks remakes of programs of dubious quality like She's the Sheriff, Small Wonder, and Mama's Family were the third and fourth seasons of Punky Brewster. After a post-NBC hiatus of a year and a half, these seasons aired on independent stations around the country in late 1987 and early 1988. These 44 episodes nearly didn't get produced at all. In a contract dispute, Soleil Moon Frye didn't report for work when it came time to shoot the first episodes for syndicator Columbia Pictures Television. The company then threatened Frye, 10 years old at the time, with an $80 million lawsuit if she continued to hold out. Punky Brewster ended a 4-year, 88-episode run in the spring of 1988, with its animated Saturday morning spinoff wrapping up a year earlier. And yet, the franchise hasn't remained dormant. In 2014, comics publisher Lionforge's Roar imprint added a digital-only Punky Brewster book series to its line of nostalgia-stirring adaptations of 80s titles like Airwolf, Knight Rider, and Saved by the Bell. The comic was a collaboration between Teen Titans writer Joel Selner and artist Leslie Vamos. Eventually collected and published as Punky Power, the comic serves as a prequel to the 1980s series, focusing on a homeless Punky Brewster as she wanders the city looking for a place to live. In January 2020, NBC Universal announced that a new Punky Brewster series was in the works. Set to debut in 2021 on the Peacock streaming service, Soleil Moon Frye returns as the title character, now a single mother of 3 who is still friends with Cherie and still occasionally wears 2 mismatched shoes. Heartwarmingly, she befriends a girl in foster care who reminds her of her old self. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.